Of all the TV shows I binged this year, Desperate Housewives is probably one of my favorites. I binged just around like the month of October and November, and I would have posted this sooner, but I had school and other things I had to worry about, which is also why my uploading schedule has not been very frequent recently. So to make up for it, I'm posting 2 videos. One is a Pixar movie tour that I just posted, and this. Now, I've meant to make this for a while, so I'm about to. The Desperate Housewives Good to Evil tier list, where I rank all the characters, or at least most of them. I might have forgotten 1 or 2, but most of the characters from Desperate Housewives, rank them from the most good all the way down to the most evil. Starting off with the most good character in Desperate Housewives, I would say it's a character who's only in like 1 episode, but his impact is still enough. It's still pretty big. And it's Eli Scruggs. He's only in 1 episode. Like, I think it's like right before, a little bit before Edie dies, is when Eli Scruggs is introduced. And it's also the episode he dies. But we get to see his impact on all the characters. He's probably the most pure good character. He's the only character in this entire show that does like nothing bad. Partly because he doesn't really have any time to do anything bad, but he also does a lot of good. For instance, without him, Gabrielle would have never been in a friend circle, because she was honestly quite terrible back in the first couple seasons. And he also did a lot of other things. He helped Susan through a divorce. He'll help anyone, no matter their problems. And although they say it was because of Mary Alice's death, he was helping people even before that, because Gabrielle was part of the friend group before that. So yeah, he's just honestly a basically pure good character. There's not really much bad we can say about him, which is why he's the most good character in Desperate Housewives. The second most good character in Desperate Housewives is hard. I'm going to go with Julie Meyer. Julie in the first few seasons is the only a really good kid in Desperate Housewives. She doesn't really do anything wrong. She tries to help out Zach the best she can, and is very good to Susan. Even basically being the parent for Susan, and we see how that affects her later on. Now, she does later go on and make a couple mistakes, like sleeping in men a little too early and stuff like that, but she's still a very good person. She never really becomes too bad. She's never a bad character at all. She's just a little less lower down than Eli Scruggs, in my opinion. Next up, we got the main character. Not the main character, but an important character, I guess at least a little bit. She might not be as recognizable here, but Mary Alice Young. Mary Alice she's introduced in the episode. She dies, just like with Eli. And she's introduced in the pilot, and her death kicks off the show. Her death is what kicks off the show, because I have to figure out why she killed herself. Now, she is, for the most part, before she dies, a pretty good person, you know? She helps out. She at least tries to make that Eddie kid grow up in a good home and not become a psychopath, but she fails. She tries to give Eddie a good home and try to make sure that Eddie's mom actually treats him well. But she fails. She fails. But, you know, she tried. She was also the one who brought all the housewives together to begin with. And she's overall a pretty good person, did a lot of good things in her life. However, she also did a couple bad, like, you know, the whole thing with the drug girl and lying to Zach about that. She did a couple. I mean, sure, she did what she probably thought was the best she could have done. Though she probably could have done a couple things different that would have been way better for the main live characters, like, you know, telling them about what she did and about the Martha Hooper note instead of immediately killing herself. But, you know, she did what she thought was best, so you can't really blame her that much for it. She's the third most good character. Number 4 is hard, but I think I'm going to go with Lynette Scavo, our first main housewife. Of all the main housewives, she's probably the one who does the least bad things. When we first see her, she's a mom. We found out she was a mom after she had her first kid. She decided to quit working to be a parent. And yeah, you can see how she's shown to not be best. She's a little less likable in first season because she's not best at parenting, but she does what she thinks is best. She does what she can do. And she does try her best. And in later seasons, she's shown to be even better, supporting Tom through his midlife crisis, and honestly, Tom was not very likable during that time, but she still supported him. She loves her kids. She loves all her kids, and she's very supportive towards all of them. overall, she does do a couple bad things at the show, but like the same with every housewife and every character in the show, except for like maybe Eli. But she's like honestly a great person, and she's definitely deserving. She's barely out of the top 3, and top 4 the most good characters. Okay, so for number 5, I know there's gonna be a good majority of a good little bit of you that's gonna think I'm wrong here, but for number 5 is gonna be Susan Meyer. Actually, yeah, sure, Susan Meyer, our next Desperate Housewife, from one housewife to another. Susan Meyer, I know, she does some pretty... For one thing, she's really broken up over... In fact, honestly, though, from the way it's described, it feels like that she's more broken up over Carl leaving her than Mike dying, honestly. Which is something, but... Yeah, she's really broke up with that and leaves Joey to do all the hard work, and also she does do some kind of unmoral stuff throughout the show. However, compared to the other characters, I just think at heart she's still a sweetheart. Although she does do a lot of bad things, she is pretty clumsy and does do some less good things. She never really has too bad intentions throughout the show. She never really has too many bad intentions, honestly. Sure, she does a few less great things, but she always at least kind of means well. Sure, she's a little mean to people like Carl, who absolutely deserve it, like Carl and Needy. But she's overall a pretty nice person, and she tries to be the best parent she can to MJ, the best wife she can be to Delfino, Mike. She's honestly a great person, so she's number 5. Number 6 is MJ. Honestly, though, I considered putting him in the top 5, but I couldn't. He does a couple bad things, like he becomes kind of a jerk when Mike dies, which fair enough. I mean, Mike died. And the main reason he's a little lower is because we don't really know exactly what he's going to grow up to be like, because we don't see him. We only see him as a kid. But for the show, he's a good boy. He's just your average good boy. He's just a kid, being a kid. He's a nice kid. Oh, he does have problems after Mike dies, like any kid would. He's just a good kid. I'm trying to be a kid. I don't know. Maybe I should put him a little lower. But, he's just a good boy, He's a good boy. Next, we got, for number 7, I don't know. Why not? Mike Delfino. Sure, he does a couple morally questionable things that kind of let him hang. He becomes a drug addict. He hung out with Deirdre, which already is a major flag. He hung out with Deirdre, He kind of becomes a drug addict. He has some problems with drugs, some minor things. And he likes to hide some stuff from his sister, so he does a few bad, morally questionable things. But overall, he's actually a pretty good guy, He dies. He's the first character. He's the first important alive character. Important alive character who doesn't die the episode we meet him, that dies. And honestly, though, he's a great character, He's a great person. He's a hero. He tries to be the best dad he can be to MJ, working every publisher if he can to afford to send him to a good school. He's also supportive of his wife Susan when they're married. And generally just overall a very good, kind-hearted person who's trying to help people. And he's a nice plumber, often letting people pay him later because of people having financial issues, which is honestly a little too nice. He's just a nice guy, Oh, he does do a few more questionable things that kind of get him killed. He's still overall a good person, which is why I'm going to put him here. Now we have, let's see, who is number 9? Honestly, this one's hard. I guess I'm going to go with, okay, for number 9, we're going with Carlos. Honestly, though, Carlos is way more old than Gabrielle. That's a fact. He's way more old than Gabrielle. You can't tell me he's not. But, yeah. Carlos, he definitely does some bad things. Just like with Gabrielle, he can do some things that even make him just as bad, if not worse than Gabrielle. Like when Gabrielle he gets just as bad as Gabrielle when they have a divorce. And that's both of them's worst time is during their divorce. Him and Gabrielle's Lisa's divorce. They get back together, but their divorce is definitely both of their worst moments. For both of them. Apart from that, for one thing, he tries to be the best daughter he can be for his kids, which I don't even know if I'm gonna rank because honestly though they're pretty hard to rank. I think I'm gonna forget about his girls when we're doing this ranking because they're kind of hard to rank. So I'm just gonna forget about them. But he's a pretty nice kid. He tries to be the best the father he can be to Juanita and Celia. And Celia, I don't know what her personality is, honestly. So yeah, he's just honestly though a great guy. He tries to use all his hand, and he tries to be a good wife to Gabrielle both times they're married. Before they get divorced and after they get back together. However, he does do some bad things. He does try and when he does try and become a good person, it's Gabrielle who often tries and sometimes succeeds to stop him. But honestly though, he's overall, I think, a good person. Gabrielle does hold him back sometimes, but he's overall, I think, a good person, so I'm putting him here. Now we have, let's see. Is it time to rank some more side characters? Okay, I really like more side characters. I guess Angie's the most good. Okay, the one thing backing Angie down quite a lot of spots is the fact she helped the terrorist, which is the whole thing running from. But to be fair, she was a little. She does deeply regret that decision. She does regret it. Also, she becomes. She tries to be the best mother she can be to her kid and the best mother she can be to her husband. And she feels genuinely bad for her kid when he has to go through all that stuff. And she generally does love her family. And she's very protective of them. She's very protective of them from Patrick, Logan. And is generally a kind, caring woman, even to other people in the neighborhood. However, she did help with Taylor, so maybe I should have put her lower down. But, I mean, she does regret that decision. She is pretty protective of her family, and she's overall a very good character throughout season 6. So I'll put her here. I don't know about Applewhite. I don't really know about Applewhite, honestly. I'll save her. Okay, well, let's finally mention Tom Scavo, because we have to mention the man himself, Tom Scavo. Tom, okay, he's pretty likable, like in that halfway area through season 5. He's pretty unlikable. He often pushes his family too hard, trying to achieve his dreams of owning a pizzeria, and doesn't want to give up when they kind of almost go bankrupt. But you know what? He's trying to do the best he can. You know, he's overall, I guess, a good person. He does care about his family, and when he suspects that Lynette's cheating on him, and they have a fight over that, he does give that up when he finds out she has cancer, which is the big plot they go through. Overall, he does care about his family, but he also does some pretty selfish things in season 5 and other seasons. I guess this is a good spot for him at number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. By the way, I was saying this is the most good, little less good. We're making our way down to the most evil from the most good. So yeah, I think he's definitely more good. I think he's definitely lower down than all these people, but he's still a good guy, I think. Okay. Brie Vandekamp. Finally, we're at another housewife. Brie Vandekamp. Now, overall, she does really care about us out with a lot of good. She does really love her friends and want to be the perfect mom. She loves and cares for her children, trying to do what's best for them. However, she's the kind of person who often gets her hands pretty dirty, which is ironic, since she's trying to be perfect, and like she's the one of the most kind of dirty, sketchy people in the show. But she's overall a pretty good person. She loves and cares about family and wants to be the perfect wife. She wants to be a perfect mother and wife and all that. But she often gets her hands dirty and often does a lot of pretty unethical things. She does truly love her family. When she becomes famous, she kind of causes Orson's mental breakdown, if I'm being honest. She kind of caused Orson's mental breakdown. Like, I mean, really, Orson, you can't help but kind of feel bad for him. At least a little bit. Brie was overall a good person, though. She does do some bad things, but she's overall, I think, a pretty good person who generally does care about her family, her friends, and even sacrifices herself trying to save her friends in the finale. So yeah, she's overall a really great person. However, she does a lot of bad things. Now it's time to mention the gay guys. They're both gay guys. I love you. Yeah, they're gay guys. The gay guys. Now they moved there. No, they moved because I guess he wanted to live in a more suburban area, And they moved to more suburban areas because of, yeah, I think it was because of this guy. I'm ranking them, they're both tied at the spot. What's the spot? 1, 2, 3, 10, 11, 12. They're both the 12th most good character in the show. They're both that number 12. But they're both pretty good people overall. They do, in the beginning, when they first come to the show, they're kind of mean, being kind of annoying to their neighbors with the water fountain, with that fountain thing. And they can be pretty rude at times. But overall, they are good people. They actually give up their life of partying so they can have a kid, which is pretty nice. Overall, they're pretty good people. However, they can be pretty rude at times, but I think they're overall good people, so I'm going to put them at 12. Now we have Angie's kid. Honestly, there's not much. He's just an average kid who has a lot of issues. He does get kind of unfairly mad at them sometimes, though, and is honestly just an average teenager who is in a pretty odd predicament with his family and all, being Angie, who helped the terrorist. But yeah, he's overall a good guy who wants to fit in, but his parents don't really let him. And sure, he doesn't do as much good as all these guys, which is why he's a little low. It's mainly just because he doesn't do as good as all of them, which is why he's a little lower down. But still, he's a good guy. Now I'm gonna mention, let's mention the British guy who dates Renee. Ben, I guess. He's that British guy who dates Renee, who marries Renee in the end. He kind of causes Mike to get a shot a little bit, and he does a few sketchy things, which is why he's a little low down. Overall, he wants the best for everyone, but he does do some pretty sketchy things, and not as much good as all these. He does a bit more bad and some pretty sketchy things than all these people, which is why he's a little. He's just a charitable man who wants to do good, but he also does a few sketchy things, which is why he's a little lower. Now we got let's see, who do I want next? So this is the 13th. What places? So this is the most good, second most good, third most good, fourth most good, fifth most good, sixth most good, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th, 14th. So the 15th most good character in this show is probably going to be, I'm going to go with the Applewhite, the first Applewhite. What's her name? Betty Applewhite. She did what she thought was bad. She definitely does some kind of bad things. Tries to kill that kid when he gets a little too far. I guess she does do some pretty unethical things, and she definitely didn't do the best case scenario. But you know what? She did what she thought was best. She generally does love and care for her family, but she also did some pretty stuff like locking her kid in the basement. But she did what she thought was best. You can't blame her too much. Still, she's a little lower than all these people. She's less good than all these people. Now we're going pretty low. We finally got to put Benny. She's a little lower because you don't really see her that much. She does do some kind of bad things, but like every kid, we just don't really see her that much. You don't really see what she goes up to be. I could probably rank her the same as MJ, actually. So maybe I should not really go up to see we don't really see what they end up like. So I'm gonna put her and MJ are tied. So after Susan is 5th, Mike is 6th, Carl 7th, Angie 9th, 10th. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 12, 11, 12, 13, 14. So yeah, I'd say that they're probably tied. Her and MJ are probably tied at number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. They're tied at the 16th most good character in the show because they're pretty overall good people. They're good kids. We don't really get to see what they grow up to be like. We don't really know too much about them, but they're pretty good kids for the most part. I'll put them both here. Now we have, let's see. I'm gonna go with Mrs. McCluskey. She's kind of a mean old neighbor in the earlier seasons. She's kind of just there for the most part. She does sacrifice herself, or almost sacrifice herself, to save Pretty and the girls, which I thought was pretty noble. She's overall a pretty noble person. And she's a pretty decent person. However, she's just kind of there, which is why I can't put her any higher than all these people. Now we're at Roy. He does consider cheating on Karen, which knocks him down a few good points. However, so he's not as good as all these people, but he still does stick with Karen. When she has cancer, he sticks with her for the long run and does truly love and care about Karen in the end. So I'll put him here. Now we got Trip. I could have put him in the gray area because he does defend some kind of sketchy people. But you know what? All lawyers defend somewhat sketchy people. You know, he's just your average lawyer. He does go on to really love Bree and really love taking and care about her. He does support her, and I'd say he's overall one of the better men of the show compared to some other men. So I'll put him. I'll put Trip at the very end of the good. He's Bree's eventual love interest after Orson. She finally goes on to marry who she eventually sticks with, Trip. I mean, I could put him in the gray area, but you know what? He's a good guy for most part. He's nice to Bree. He cares about Bree and supports her through becoming a politician in the very end, very end of the show. So I'll put him here. Okay, it took 20 minutes to get through the good tier. Now we're at the gray area. The characters who aren't really good or really evil or bad. Starting off, I guess the most good gray area person is probably, this is hard, but the most good gray area person. I'm gonna say Gabrielle. Okay, for all these people, I'd say the most good gray area person is probably actually Gabrielle Solis, our final desperate housewife. Okay, she's pretty selfish. Throughout the show, she even admits that she's selfish. And she's really bad. She does get a lot better. A lot of the characters here do get a lot better as the show goes on, and she's one of them. She starts off pretty selfish, and she kind of keeps that trait of trying to be selfish, trying to hinder her husband to fulfill his selfish desires. And she's definitely pretty selfish, but she will go to decent lengths to get what she wants. But she does get a lot better as the show goes on. When she has Juanita and that other girl, Celia, she does kind of love them and truly care about them. And she's very protective of her family. Even Carlos, she sticks with him when he's blind. So finally, she's willing to stay with a man, even if it doesn't benefit her financially. Although, when he can finally benefit her financially, she kind of makes him get a rich job again. Which, I mean, fair enough, I guess. You want to be a laser kid again, you want to be able to buy yourself, so fine, whatever. She is kind of selfish, and even in those first two seasons, she's especially at her worst in the first two seasons when she cheats with John Rowland, which, I mean, Carlos could have been a way better husband than he was in the first season, but, you know, she still shouldn't have cheated with John Rowland, which I didn't even know John Rowland. Nah, what the hell, who cares? You know, okay, John Rowland. So, yeah. But she's still a pretty good person for most, you know. I mean, maybe not for the most part. I said that way too much. But she does love her kids. She does go on to stay with Carlos even when it doesn't benefit financially. She does go on to be really loving and protective of her kids. And she's very protective of her friends and Carlos. She is, along with the other girls, pretty mean to Brie in the final season, though. But all the girls have problems or whatever. But still. But, you know, she definitely does a lot of selfish things. Like, a lot. But she also has very moral moments. She also does do a fair share of actually good things in this show, too. She does do her fair share of good things. Like, you know, she does love and care about her family. She does try and be the best mom she can be to them. And, you know, she's I'd say, deep down a good person. Especially this one about Alejandro definitely makes me feel bad for her. I think deep down she is a good person with quite a few issues. Now we got, let's see. Who is the next? I'd say next in line we'll all probably... Let's do... Catherine, I guess. Catherine is introduced. So, her big thing is in season 4 as she's the subject of that mystery. She did what she thought was best. Maybe she could have done a little better than what she did with Dylan and that cop guy. But, you know, she did what she thought was best. Then she goes on to take a turn for the worse, just like with Orson, where she kind of like, well, if you've seen the show, you know, she kind of like gets really protective of Mike Delfino. She dates Mike Delfino. She gets really mad at Susan when she takes him from her, tries and does some stuff. She comes by Zell, you know. She definitely does some kind of bad things at the show. And she also, how eventually she leaves the show, and like at the end of season 5, or maybe season 6, Yeah, I think season 6, after deciding that she's in love with this lady that she met. However, she comes back in the finale to tell everyone that's not the case and not filling out a job to cause her to go. I mean, she's overall, I guess, a good person, but she does some kind of bad things, which is why she's in the gray area. If you've seen the show, you know what I'm talking about. But I kind of forgot. But, anyway, I guess next up I'll probably go with Andrew, I guess. Yeah, I mean, he's definitely at his worst, just like with Gabrielle. He gets a lot. He's definitely not a very great guy in the first couple seasons, but once he makes the only good parenting choice she'll ever make, she makes the first good parenting choice she's made all show and abandons him. He does go on to become a much better person, actually trying to live on his own and become a better person. Now in those first 2 seasons, he does drugs, he sleeps with the guy Aubrey's into, stuff like that. And he's basically a teenager at the very worst kind of teenager. But he becomes a lot better as the show goes on and becomes a half decent guy, which is why he's in the gray area. Okay, next up, I'm probably gonna go with, let's see. Finally, I'm gonna mention it. I mean, I think this is a little too high. Orson Hodge. Honestly, though, Orson was more of a victim. Well, sure, he probably shouldn't have become a klepto. He probably could have done many things better than he does in later seasons. In the first couple seasons he's in, there's a whole trauma with his mother, which you can't really blame him too much for, in my opinion. You can't really blame him too much for what he does with his mother. Him like Delfino wasn't very good, but hey, he did what he felt he had to do. And I mean, that stuff with his mother was not really as much his fault. It was just kind of an unfortunate situation he was in. However, he does, after Bree kind of causes him to become a little bit of a klepto by, I forgot. By can't worry about by not really respecting him as much as he wanted to. He does kind of become a klepto, and him and Bree get divorced. And in season 8, he comes up with this pretty kind of not very great plan to get her back. He does do some not great things later on in the show, which causes him to get divorced from Bree and for Bree to go on a married trip. But in the end of the road, I think he was more of a victim than he was a victimizer. I think he was more of a victim, in my opinion. While he definitely could have made his life a whole lot better, I think in the end of the road, he was more of a victim. So I'll say he's really not that bad of a guy, in my opinion. Now, next up, I we're probably going to, let's see, who do I have to put next? You know what, Paul? The only bad thing he does really is killing Martha Hooper, and I mean, can you really blame him that much for that? Like, she caused Mary Alice, she caused his wife to kill herself. Honestly, though, I feel like he does in season 7 come back after like many seasons of just not being there to go after to take revenge on the people who he feels wronged him. And he does do some pretty bad stuff in that season. However, he does decide to go to jail and to atone for killing Martha Hooper. Honestly, though, I think he's overall a good guy. I mean, I think deep down he is a good guy, a decent guy. Like what Mary Alice says in that one episode, I think he's a decent guy. However, he did kind of a bad thing. However, I think he's more of a victim than a victimizer, in my opinion, so he's here. Next up, let me think. You know what? Zach, he does go on to hate his dad after he starts to blame him for Mary Alice killing herself, and after he finds out that he actually kind of did kill Martha Hooper, he goes on to hate his dad. In the first 2 seasons, he really does love him, but he goes on to hate him, and, he does a lot of things. He kind of causes that old guy to die sooner, so he'll get his money, and then he pursues Gabrielle, and not a great person, does do some not great things. So I feel like, just like with Paul, he's more of a victim than a victimizer. In the end of the show, he's kind of left on, like, more of a question mark, because Paul leaves him in Paul decided to leave him in a mental facility, rehab, because he gets addicted to drugs, and, kind of just has that. And he says he hates his dad, but, I'd say he's overall more of a victim of this. I think him and Paul are both more, or they could have made better decisions. They do kind of hurt themselves with their decisions. They were more victims of their situation than more victimizers, in my opinion. Same with Liz and Hodge, in my opinion. But yeah. Okay, you want to know who else is like that? Dave. I know, a lot of people think he's just like a really... I know people are going to think he should be in the evil tier, in the evil category. Because the gray is for people who aren't really good or evil. The good is the good people. Gray area is for more in between. Oh, I say Gabrielle is more good than bad. Some of these people more good than bad, but still, I don't think it should be good. Okay. I think Dave, though. Dave's an interesting one. Honestly, though, you definitely do feel bad for him because, well, he shouldn't have tried to kill Catherine and then a little kid, MJ, who had nothing to do with it, just to hurt Susan, who was responsible for the crash to kill his family. You kind of really feel bad for him. You generally think he deserves... He doesn't even go to jail. He goes to a mental institution in the end. And he decides not to even kill Edie. He almost kills Edie. He marries Edie to take revenge on the guy who caused his family to die, Mike Delfino. Or at least he's the guy who thought was responsible for his family's death. It was actually Susan, so he tries to kill MJ because Susan loves him, and he decides against it, though. He does, in the end, decide against it, and he gets in a mental facility. Honestly, though, I think deep down, he's, in my opinion at least, I think he's more of a victim of, well, he definitely shouldn't have tried to kill a little kid, but he does decide against it in the long run, and I think overall, he was more of a victim of the situation. Not saying I condone that his actions be condoned, but I feel like he's an interesting character because I feel like, just like with the few people I mentioned before him, he's more of a victim of circumstances than like an actual villain. Oh god, there's so many people I forgot about. There's so many people I still have to rank. And really though, should I even be putting... Honestly, I feel like John Rowland and Catherine... No, that's not Catherine. Danielle. Oh yeah, Danielle. She's interesting. Honestly, though, I should probably put I feel like I should have put Danielle. I feel like Danielle should be a little higher up because she's honestly probably the worst version of Andrew. She does honestly some things that are even worse than Andrew, but she, just like Andrew, she becomes better as the show goes along. She does, after giving birth to Bree's kid, she lets her raise him for a couple years, but then goes on to take him. And yeah, that was kind of mean. And she also decides to raise him. Honestly, though, she was kind of mean doing all that. And you generally feel bad for Bree doing that. Honestly, though, I feel like I don't think she's really a bad person. I say she's in between Orson and Paul. Because honestly, I don't even really like her that much. Honestly, though, I'll put her below Zach. I'd say she's definitely better than Dave, but I'd say she's honestly below Zach. Honestly, I just don't like her in any episode she's in. She doesn't... I mean, sure, she tries to be a good parent to her kid, so there's that. But honestly, though, she's just kind of like, she takes Bree's kid after she raised him for all those years and only visits her once. Now she's just kind of mean throughout that. And then there's what she does, all that stuff she does before that, which is some of it's even worse than what Andrew does. Yeah, I'll just say she's here, right? But she's in between Zach and Dave on a moral spectrum, in my opinion. She's in between Dave and, so Gabrielle's the most good person in the gray area, followed by, Catherine, Andrew, Orson, then Paul, then Zach, then it's her, Danielle, then it's Dave. Next up in line after Dave, I feel like Renee should be right after Danielle, but, I mean, Renee is supportive. Honestly, though, I feel like she should probably be, she's Gabrielle, but, like, oh, God, I forgot how Edie, I completely forgot. I don't know who Edie should go. I still don't even know if some of these people should even go. Yeah. I actually think Edie is probably, yeah, I'd say she does burn down Susan's building after, what did Susan do to her? I kind of forgot, but whatever. She's kind of, she definitely, Edie Britt, I'd say she's in between Zach and Danielle. Yeah, I'd say she's in between Zach and Danielle, honestly. Yeah, I'd say that. That's a good spot for Edie Britt. She's a final main desperate housewife, I guess. So I guess she's a main girl. She does die in season 5, but Yeah, I'd say Edie is probably in between Zach and Danielle. She's like Gabrielle, but like way worse. She's Gabrielle, but worse. She's pretty selfish. She does do some good things. She tried to be a good mom to Travers by um getting rid of him. She did that partly because she loved him, mainly because she loved him, and she didn't want him to grow up with her and with Edie. She didn't want Travers to grow up with him, and I mean, she does try and be a good mom to him when she is around his life. And apart from that, she does grow to love Dave and truly feel bad for him after she finds out what happened to his family, and she doesn't leave him after that, like what some people would do. However, she does, and although she does do some good things, like she tries to be a good stepmom kind of to Julie when Carl dates her, I'd say she's probably more. Along the lines of. She's definitely more. I think she has more bad qualities than good. She does have some good qualities, keeping her in the gray area, but then there's a lot of stuff she does. Yeah, I completely forgot about Paula and Preston. How did I forget about Paula and Preston? Yeah, this list is kind of confusing because I feel like Porter and Preston. What do I rank them? I'd probably put Porter and Preston in between. Yeah, I say they're in between. In the first 2 seasons before the time jump, they're just troublemakers. Then they actually go on to break the laws. They do care about each other, and they overall care about Lynette, but they're overall throughout the show, they're all pretty much troublemakers. And they do a lot of bad things, but they also do a lot of good things, and they're just kids at the end of the day, so I'll put them in between, probably in between, actually I'll put them in between Gabrielle and Catherine on a moral spectrum. Yeah, I like that. Now, yeah, got Edie, who, yeah, I'd say this is a good spot for her in between Zach and Danielle. Then it's Dave. Well, I'd say in between Zach and Edie, I'm gonna put Carl. The first thing he does in the show is Susan divorces him for cheating. So throughout the show, he's a cheater, and it's pretty much implied that if Carl didn't die in season 6, and she stayed with he stayed with Bree, she would have cheated on Bree, and that he was overall just a cheater. Through it all, he was a cheater. Now, he doesn't really do that much good. Just like Edie, he doesn't do that much good. I'd say he's probably actually a little less good because I feel like Edie at least does some good. Like, she tells Susan that she has a problem with men, which is true, and she does try and help Susan sometimes, and the other Desperate Housewives, and she does do some good things. It's not like she's all bad. She does do some good things, which is why she's here. I'd say Carl is probably worse. I'd actually say he's not worse than Dave, but he's worse than Danielle, I'd say. In the gray area, he's lower than Danielle, yeah. He is protective of Julie and really does love and care about her and tries to be in her life as much as he can. And he's protective, even allowing Julie to switch colors with him, so she'll be safe from that strangler guy who turns out to be Eddie. Overall, his only good quality really is that, really. Because it's implied that he would have cheated on Bree if she stayed with him, and would he have cheated on Edie? Yeah, probably, because he's kind of a cheater. But yeah, I'd say this is a good spot, because he's kind of just plays the women and isn't really good at any of them because he cheats. However, I'd say this is a good spot for him. Now, I'd say right below Dave. I'd say this guy is honestly pretty pure neutral. I have no idea where to rank the bald guy. He doesn't mean any of the harm he causes. I'd say the bald guy, the bald Applewhite, or second Applewhite, the autistic guy who hurts a lot of people. He doesn't really know what he's doing, and he doesn't really mean to do any of it. So I'd say I'd put him in between Orson and Paul. Yeah, I like that. A pure neutral spot. I like that. Then after Dave, I'd say Renee would be in between Edie. I say she's a little worse than Edie because she's pretty selfish. She actually doesn't do that much good throughout the show, but she does a little bit. She does love that that British guy, and she does care about Lynette. So she does some good, but she's overall pretty selfish, Renee. Renee's our final, like, I guess, kind of main desperate housewife, I guess. She does care about Lynette, and, she does try and help sometimes and is a good person sometimes, but she's also pretty selfish. I'd say this is a good spot for her. Then Edie. Honestly, though, Renee is just nothing character, in my opinion. But then there's Danielle, then Carl, then Dave. John Rowland. How did I forget about John Rowland and the slightly psychopathic girl? Oh yeah, honestly, I feel like I could honestly put Felicia Tillman in the same spot as Paul. Honestly, I'd say Felicia Tillman and Paul are kind of like tied in this spot. I'd say Felicia Tillman and Paul are tied because while Felicia wants to take revenge for Martha being killed, Paul kind of killed her. Yeah, I'd say they're both kind of equal in that regard. I'd say they're both kind of equal in my opinion. Though Felicia goes to some more circumstances to like actually frame Paul from herself. I'd say maybe Felicia's probably the worst of the two in my opinion. Yeah, I'd say Felicia's the worst of the two. I'll put him in between Paul and Zach. Actually, no. In between Zach and Renee. Yeah, that's a good spot in between Zach and Renee. I like that. As you can see, I'm showing a lot of. Yeah, between Zach and Renee. I like that spot. John Rowland would probably be in between. I'd say John Rowland in between Orson and Paul. In between Orson and I say John Rowland is probably in between Andrew and Orson. Actually, he cheats with Gabrielle, but he cheats with Gabrielle, which is one thing. But he also he tries to do it again, and although he initially decides to not cheat with Gabrielle again and be faithful to his new fiance, he tries to cheat on her again. I'd say he's kind of a cheater guy. However, he does try and be a good person. I'd say he's kind of more neutral. I'd say he's in between what's his name? Andrew and what's his name? Orson. Yeah, I think that's a good spot. Honestly though, the girl who I'd say that Lynette's stepdaughter is probably Lynette's stepdaughter, just like with Paul, Zach, and even Dave. I'd say she's more of a victim than a victimizer. She just has a hard time adjusting to Lynette. Lynette doesn't really like her and wants to reel on back, so she kind of does some pretty bad things. She does some really bad things. However, I'd say though she's more of a victim than a victimizer in my opinion. Besides, she's just a kid. I'll put her in between Orson. I'll put her in between this kid, the bald black guy, the bald Applewhite, and Paul. That's a good spot. So the ranking is from most good to least good in the gray area, because we just covered all the good. These guys are less good in the gray area. It continues. But then so the gray area is less good. So right after Trip, we have Gabrielle in the gray area. Then the brothers, Ford and Preston. What's her name? What's this one's name? Catherine. Then Andrew. Then John Rowland. Then Wilson. Then the bald Applewhite. Then Paul. Then bald guy. Then the stepdaughter. Then Paul. Then Zach. Then Felicia Tillman. Then Renee. Then Edie. Then Danielle. Then what's his name? Carl. Then I would say would be what's his name? Oh yeah, Dave. Then I'd say Martha is probably she's in between Carl and Dave. Nah, she's in between this girl and Danielle and Carl, honestly. She probably shouldn't have written that note, and honestly, how she reacted, I just don't think she's that good, honestly. She's never really that good of a person throughout her 8 episodes on screen. She's never really that good of a person. She's constantly, the nosy neighbor. And gets, Mary Alice to kill herself. Honestly, I don't think she's a good person, honestly. I'd say she's in between Danielle and Carl. I think that's a good spot for her. Now we have the deeply troubled and evil. I feel like at least a couple of these characters aren't really bad, or aren't really evil. They're just more deeply troubled. I guess the 6th most evil character is the final Applewhite, I forgot his name, but the final Applewhite. He's the one who actually killed that girl and caused I finally remember Caleb to get locked up in the basement. However, he was kind of just reacting. He's kind of more a victim of circumstance. Well, I feel like this is definitely less justified than some other killings I've seen. I feel like this one is definitely a lot less justified than some of the other killings in this show. And I don't think I don't want to give him as much slack. I think that he is more victim, and it's partly just the situation. However, I'm not saying he's a good guy. He's still a deeply troubled, if not almost bad character, even maybe a bad character, but he still is. I don't think he's that bad, is what I'm saying. Now we have Eddie. I feel like Eddie is definitely well, he's also a victimizer, and he had no right to strangle Julie, thinking she was Susan, and strangle and kill the people that he did. You kind of do feel bad for him, honestly, because it's a lot of just his parents' fault. I don't really think he's truly evil. I don't really think Eddie's evil in this show. He's more just like a deeply troubled character. At least that's just my opinion, is that Eddie's more like a deeply troubled character, but not really an evil character, in my opinion. He's just more of a victim of circumstance. If his mother was better, he would be better. That's all I'm saying. Not saying that excuses what he does, but I don't think he's really evil. Our first kind of evil character is, what's his name? Orson Hodge's ex-wife. I forgot her name, but Orson's ex-wife. Now on one hand, you can at least cut her a little bit of slack, because, I mean, she's a little bit of a victim too, but first off, she married Orson despite knowing that he didn't even want to marry her. Then she tries to get him to love her again, which every attempt fails. She tries to punish him to make him want to love her again, and then she just decides. And yeah, she's just not really a good person. She's desperately trying to screw over Orson's life for really no reason. She's just honestly kind of a terrible person. She tries to screw over Orson's life for really no reason, despite knowing that Orson doesn't even love her. I guess she kind of know that. I guess she kind of thought he did somewhere. I guess maybe I could cut her some slack, but she's still a pretty bad person. Now in the top 3, the third worst person in Desperate Housewives is Orson's mom. She's the third worst. She's the third most evil person in Desperate Housewives. It's Orson's mom. I would at least be able to cut her some slack if the reason that she hated Orson was because of she felt like he caused his dad's suicide. But guess what? He didn't. She's the one who killed him, Orson's dad. And so really though, her reason, she hates Orson for basically no reason, and she goes on to destroy his life and to ruin him socially. So honestly, she's just an overall terrible person. Now, a very close second is going to be Alejandro. Alejandro is Gabby's stepfather, who does some pretty bad stuff to her. Then he comes back and then in season 7, and he starts the whole plot for season 7 by trying to do what he did to Gabrielle again. How he gets killed. He's just overall a terrible person. He only cares about himself and does some really terrible things to Gabby and the other kid who he had. Who he had biologically, I think. He does terrible things to her as well. He's overall a terrible person here. So I think he's second. The second most evil. So the least evil person in the deeply shown evil to the most is the last Applewhite, Eddie, then this woman, then the mother of Orson, then Alejandro, then the most evil character is Patrick Logan. He's the big bad of season 6. He's a terrorist. Well, at least he has some kind of maybe moral reason for doing what he does. He's still a terrorist. He kills a lot of people without really caring that much. And then he tries to kill Angie's kid. He's overall just a terrible person. There's nothing really good about him, I guess. I mean, at least maybe he had a kind of moral reason to do what he did, I guess. Maybe Alejandro's worse. I don't know. But Patrick Logan's a deeply evil person. He doesn't really care about anyone but himself. I guess he did care about his cause and I guess Angie before she went against him. However, he's honestly just a deeply terrible person. I don't know, because at least he had kind of a moral cause. And I guess he did care about Angie at one point. So maybe Alejandro's worse. I don't know. You could probably switch them if you wanted to. But we're 50 minutes in. That is Desperate Housewives, from the most good, and then it gets less good as you progress, and then the gray area, the people who aren't really good or evil. Then we go down to the most evil person in the entire show. And that's all. If you like this video, you might want to subscribe. Click here to subscribe. And here's another good evil I made on a different show called, well, I don't know what I'm gonna, but I have made a few more good evils. I'll put one up here for you to watch. Click it. Anyway, peace.